Hello and welcome to our Good Friends, Strong Families podcast. I am Angela.
And I'm Anna. Today, we're going to be talking about how to raise a kid who doesn't give up and also learning how to be a parent who doesn't give up. Because this is one of those skills that we're going to be teaching you tools that can literally be used in every stage and phase and age of life because we will all inevitably hit speed bumps and roadblocks and hitting a wall where we want to give up.
Yeah.
And so it could be with homework. It could be with learning a new skill. It could be with practicing the skills you're learning on our podcast.
Right. I like that expression, we can do hard things.
Yes.
Not the hards are hard.
And also choosing your hard because
yeah,
it's usually, two sides of the same coin, right?
I think too, when we think about not giving up on things, one of the expressions that you and I use a lot when we're doing like our Strengthening Families classes or other classes where we'll say, it's fun and easy to do. Because the more people hear that those skills are easy, they are attainable, or they might be frustrating or a little more difficult now, but they will get easier over time, the better I think it is for people. They'll understand more.
Yes, absolutely. And they really are like simple concepts. It's just a matter of persevering a lot of times. And perseverance is like a muscle, right? So we got to use it.
I love that. Perseverance is a muscle. I'm getting a t-shirt that's I've been persevering in a lot lately.
Yeah. And I think I feel like resilience was kind of like one of those buzzwords maybe a few years ago.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this a lot because one of the things that we always say, my husband and I say this, and Angela and I talk about it a lot, is like whatever struggles we've had in our lives, we always want our kids to have a better life than us, right? And we always want them to do better than us. And so, but resilience doesn't come easy.
Yeah. You gotta want that.
We want our kids to have resilience. But that means they're going to kind of have to go through some growing pains.
Which is
they're going to have to hit that struggle and keep going.
For me, when our kids were little and they would get through that growing phase, I saw other parents that just handled this really well. And I just didn't handle it so well because I was like, well, why can't you do it? Or why would you get so frustrated? Or just do it. Like I think there was like a part of me when I was younger that just forgot that I also had struggled to get to where I was. And so I really wanted to like shortcut it for the kids. Like, I'll just do it. It's just easier for me to do it. But then they're not struggling or they're not learning or they're not growing because I've chosen to do it for them.
Right. Because resilience grows when they try the hard things, they learn from failure, they reassess, they problem solve, and we're there to support them through it. But we kind of can't do it for them. I feel like, gosh, I don't even know if it's like accurate, but I've heard it and I think it is. I think I looked it up like many, many years ago. But did you ever hear a story about like how baby giraffes are born?
Oh, wait, I think I have. Okay, tell the story. I love this.
Okay, so like giraffes are obviously like tall. They have long legs. So in the wild, when giraffes are born, they drop from their mother and they land in routes. And somebody was observing this, probably like a good-willed person who, loves animals. And they were like, oh my gosh, that poor baby giraffe fell on the hard ground. And so through whatever means, they wanted to support the birth of baby giraffes. And I want to say like they used a mattress or some sort of cushioning.
Some cushion.
And when that baby giraffe fell on the cushioning, it never did take its first breath.
Oh.
And because something about the drop like kickstarted something for the giraffe's first breath or something.
Wow.
And so that's just one tiny little example in the world.
That's pretty funny, actually.
We want to protect our kids, right?
That's
right. Struggling. Oh, let me just do it. But how are they ever going to learn? And it could be something as simple as learning how to tie shoes. It could be something bigger, but it's through those small things and the learning how to persevere. I was one of those kids. Learning came really easy to me when I was younger. And so I didn't have to study. which also meant I didn't know how to study.
Oh,
And so at some point I hit that wall of like, oh, I can't just logically learn this through common sense or my own reasoning. I have to actually memorize things or learn new concepts that I don't understand. And so I I then felt like I guess I'm not smart because I was always told I was smart. And so when something was hard, I must not be smart anymore.
oh,
And so
wow.
I think that that's one of the tools that we're going to talk about too is learning how to praise and encourage the effort over the results. Because there
Right.
will be times when our kids and ourselves put in a ton of effort and we still not might not hit the goal. We still might not get the job. The kid
Yeah.
might not make the team. Even though they put in a lot of effort,
Yeah.
they still might not actually be quote good enough for certain
Yeah.
things. And so if all we're focused on is the reward instead of the process of persevering, of learning, of growing and saying, "Hey, you still got better." Like there's still something worthy of the effort and the time, even if the result isn't what you want.
Yeah. And it makes a lot of sense because what happens in their adult lives, they're not going to get everything they want. They're not going to get the partner that they want. They're not going to get the job that they want necessarily, or get, um, uh, what is the word I'm looking for? Accepted into the school that they want, or there are times where they are not going to get exactly what they want, and so I know because I'm a mom how hard that is to see your kids struggle, or to
That's
see them work really hard for something and not get it. But you're right, it is in that struggle, it's in that, and there are times that they win.
yep.
There are. And that's the other thing is we have to celebrate those wins and be really excited about those as well.
Yes, even when they're small. And I think that's the thing is like the everyday things. Like there's always something to be celebrated, even if it's just acknowledging their effort or their
Yeah, you
growth.
work so hard.
Yeah. And also remembering that growth and progress. I remember like the phrase when I was a kid was like, practice makes perfect. Practice makes perfect. If you just practice, you'll be perfect. And obviously we know that's not true. But
These are new expression they say now. Practice makes what?
progress.
Oh, is that it? Okay.
Yeah. And I think another thing to remember is that progress isn't always linear. So some
That's a
days
big
you're going to
point.
go out there, you're going to have an amazing day, amazing practice or amazing game or whatever your activity is. You're going to remember all the correct spelling for every single word, whatever. But then the very next day or the very next game or the very next test or the very next concept, it may not go that way.
Yeah, that's right.
And so again, that's where that focus on the effort and the focus on the work and those skills that you want them to learn is where we still celebrate that. And like we always talk about, if you're capable of getting A's, that's awesome. We want you to do your best. But if your best is a B or a C, we can still celebrate that because you did your
Yeah,
best.
that's right.
So we
It's so good.
yeah, we have some researchers and some quote experts in this field.
Sorry, erase that part. There's something I'm like, oh, I have to get it off. Sorry, Ellie, erase this last part. Okay, sorry. Go back, Anna. Start again with we have some researchers in the field.
Yes. So, I mean, Angela's kind of like our expert on sharing all things research based. And there's some skills that and tools that Strengthening Families teaches. And then we've also pulled some other resources. And so, Angela, tell us about Carol Dweck's work.
Ooh, I love this stuff. Okay, so there's a researcher. Her name's Carol Dweck, and she studied why there's some kids keep like pushing through and trying, but then there are other kids that just shut down when things get really hard, like things get tough, and they're like, I can't do it. I don't want to do it. Get this. This is what she found. When kids believe their abilities can grow, if they practice, then they will press through. So they have to have a belief system that says, if I keep pressing, if I keep, practicing, if I press through when it gets hard, I know my abilities are going to grow. However, the kids who didn't believe that their abilities, they didn't think they'd see any change at all. They said, I quit. I'm not going to do it. The funny thing is, so she calls this a growth mindset. Um, so the funny thing is that it's just a matter of moving those kids from, I don't believe that I'm going to get better, to understanding that they can get better, that if they do practice, they can get better. And then they would move from that fixed position to a growth position. And it literally changes how kids respond to challenge. Isn't that awesome? But guess who has to do it? The people who care about them.
Yes,
Because
they
it
have to be
has to be
supported through that, especially if that quote growth mindset does not come natural, if that hasn't already been just learned through osmosis.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that that's kind of like what my struggle was, if you're called, oh, you're so smart, or you're so good, you're so naturally athletic. And so when a kid's told these things or just come natural to them, we think we're praising them, but that actually feeds the fixed mindset because they think that that's what they are and that doesn't change. And
Yeah.
so that kid who's been told all their life that like, oh my gosh, since you picked up a ball, you've just been amazing when you were 2. You could barely run, but you were like already like the star athlete. And then at some point the playing field is leveled. And the other kids who maybe weren't, quote, naturally inclined to athleticism were the ones that had good like practice skills and practice discipline. And all of a sudden, they're just as good or better. Or even if they're not, even if that person really does have an amazing natural talent, they don't have the all those other benefits of like a strong work ethic because they just think this talent was handed to them and they're not actually developing it. And so, same thing with like telling a kid, "Oh, you're so smart." Like again, that's fixed. So then if they don't understand something, then they just think they're not smart.
Oh, that's good.
So
Good. And we can actually change that. Like, instead of just praising when they've done it, we praise their effort for doing it. So that we praise their growth, we praise their tenacity, we praise their resilience or their grit, which is actually what she calls it. She calls it grit. And she says passion plus perseverance is what helps kids finish what they start. And so even when it's boring, even when it's frustrating, even when it's not going perfectly, and the cool thing about that is that grit is actually a skill. And so the more they do it, the more they practice it, the more they're supported in it, the more they will develop their grit. And that's what will help them to do that, not just in sports or school or whatever, but in all areas of their
in
lives.
life.
Yeah.
Yes. And there's another researcher, Angela Duckworth, and she studied why some people succeed long term. And surprisingly, it wasn't talent. It was something that she calls grit.
Oh, she's the one that says that.
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
We need to fix that. Okay.
Okay, hold on. Erase all the stuff I talked about for grit. Go back and let Anna talk about that grit part.
Okay.
Wrong researcher. And action.
Yes. So I love Carol Dweck's kind of summary is that kids don't need to be naturally good. They just need to believe that they can improve. And then another researcher, Angela Duckworth, studied why some people succeed long term. And surprisingly, it wasn't talent. It was something that she calls grit, which is passion plus perseverance. Grit is what helps the kids finish what they start.
I love it.
Boring, frustrating, or not going perfectly. And I think that that's something that we haven't touched on yet, and we will. But it's a skill. So it grows through the practice, support, and experiencing the small wins over time. And that small win could just be progress. It could just be acknowledging that they've worked really hard and they haven't given up, even if they still have yet to get the result that they want. So grit develops when kids stick with something and they get to see that own progress, and we get to support them in that, and we kind of get to be the shooter, and we can't do it for them.
Hey, listen to this. Okay, so this is one of the things that I really wanted to talk about, that when we talk about perseverance, in prevention, we always think about like what protects our kids from choosing risky behaviors, for example. And so when we talk about this idea of perseverance, we frame it as what we call a protective factor, meaning if kids will persevere in some things, it is really protective for them. And it's because when they learn to cope with their frustration, they're less likely to rely on using different coping or risky coping strategies. So things like substances, avoidance, acting out, that kind of thing. But the really cool thing about that is it also helps to build internal confidence. Have you ever watched those shows like, I'm not, I don't want to name any, but the kind of shows where people are like out in the middle of the wilderness and they are learning to survive. And I always think like, I don't, occasionally they'll do something and I think, don't you have any like will to live? Like, why are you out here? You need a bet, you need a stronger will to live. And one of the things about perseverance or resilience is that it can actually push us to do things we would never think to do or think we could do or any of those things. It's one of the reasons why it's so important for us not to do everything for our kids. It's in the struggle. I heard a researcher say yesterday, Anna, listen, it changed the way I thought about failure. He said, you learn more in failure than you do success. Can you imagine?
I believe it because, well, you also learn a lot about yourself.
Yeah.
And how you respond to that. But yeah, I mean, what was it? Like how many times did it take Thomas Edison to figure out the light bulb?
Right. Yeah, he didn't get it the first time.
And it was like, wasn't it like close to 100 or something? And he's like, well, I've learned this many ways to not do it. And that was like a huge growth mindset. Like take any like well-known inventor, like, oh my gosh, think about the perseverance when that idea was dropped into them. Yeah. And they couldn't give up, or they were just so sure, or even just, this just popped into my head. You can tell I grew up in a sports family. I think it was, they assumed that like the human body was not even capable of running the mile in like under 4 minutes, that they would it would literally die if they ran that fast.
Until they did it.
And then once one person did it, all of a sudden, all these other athletes were able to do it because they finally believed that it was possible.
Yeah.
And this brings up another kind of tool and strategy that we hope you're going to find very useful. And it will probably be useful in a lot of scenarios, but it's called the power of yet. And I wish I remembered who coined that phrase. I'm pretty sure it's a book even. But for example, if your kid is struggling in math, and the most common thing that I think parents hear is like, I can't do it, or I'm not good at it.
Yeah.
And they need to learn the power of yet. You can't do it yet. You aren't good at it yet. You don't understand it yet. I don't like carrots yet. Like I said, there's a lot of applications, and the power of yet is that growth mindset power. It is truly saying like, hey, I don't get it yet, but I can, or I not what, I mean, literally any and everything. Even as parents, we can say, I'm not good at applying these strategies yet. I'm not good at letting my kids struggle yet.
Listen, I want to ask you about this because you and I have talked about this, and I love the way you talk about it when we talk about the neural pathways. So we've talked about how struggle literally strengthens the neural pathways because it's all repetition, right? You're doing it again, and that effort actually changes your brain. It actually creates pathways so that your brain will eventually choose whatever it was that you were struggling with more often.
Because think about it. Like, let's say your kid is truly struggling in an area. Like, I love to use the example of math because that's a very common one in my household.
Right.
Yeah, it's one that I have struggled to help my kids with because when I didn't have a huge struggle with that. So again, it was one of those things that like came easily to me. So then when I had to like break it down to teach it, I didn't know how because it was just, I felt like I always knew.
You're like, come on.
So then I would try to come up with new strategies, new ways to explain it. And I felt like I was developing my own Common Core, like curriculum. Like it was just like, how else can I explain this? Um, but anyways,
Your
so but
poor
think
kids.
this is kind of, we talked about this in our last episode about the ants. Those are probably your kids' ants. I can't do it. I'm not good at math. They've probably said it
That's
over
good.
and over and over. And so that is the current tunnel through their brain. The train track has been laid that this is their belief. I can't do it.
That's good.
I'm not good at it. So now you have to build a new train track, basically like bypassing over the other one so that that becomes the default route.
That's
And
so good.
simply adding yet could be the bridge that gets you over that current tunnel, that current train track, because that's going to be their default. And while it's their default, that's where the parents can come in and support. Because again, we can't do it for them. We can support them, we can try to help, we can, do all these things, but we have to get them to do it. And so if they say something negative, you say that again and add yet. And that helps build that new neural pathway.
That's so good.
To bypass the old one.
Yeah, that's really good. And eventually that connection dries up. The I can't do it connection dries
Well,
up.
it's not fed, it's starved. Just like any tree, plant, any living thing, if it's not fed, it will shrivel up and die. And that is how the brain works.
So I want to tell a quick story. One of our kids, this was not a situation where they didn't want to try. They actually had been trying. And one of our kids decided to go through scouting and had gotten all the way just shy of becoming an Eagle Scout. And, if you've ever had a kid in scouting or any of those skills development kind of programs, that they build upon, and you have years behind you in that, absolute years of things that you've done. And so the kid gets to whatever, 17, I think, and says, I'm just going to quit. Had gotten all the way to the rank right before the final rank is Eagle Scout, right there. And he was like, well, I'm just going to quit. I'm not interested anymore. I don't want to press through. It's too much work for me this is too much of it. And I just had like this moment where I thought, I mean, obviously the kid was in his whatever. He was like, I think he was 17, if I remember right. But he was like, getting ready to go off to college right after that. And like everything in me thought, I mean, realistically, do I really want to fight this kid to do it? You know what I mean? But then the other part of me thought, he will regret that the rest of his life, that he didn't finish, that he had gotten right to the edge. I talked to several guys that said, I got almost to my Eagle Scout and never got it. And I knew he would regret it. And so I went back to him and said, there is a big difference between someone who crosses the finish line and someone who sits on the ground before they cross the finish line. You can cross the finish line with just seconds to spare and the last one to go through, but you have to go through. And he fought me. He didn't want to do it. He fought me like crazy. And, when they get to that spot, you can't do it for them, but you have to be. I employed everything. I called the scoutmaster. I got others, all the people. And he did it. And he did it. And he did it begrudgingly, but he crossed that line. And boy, he does not regret that now. He's so glad that he did it. So sometimes we have to, even though we might want to sit down and say, fine, you don't want to do it, it's your life. There are things that we know will impact them and we have to press through.
Right. And I think that that's a great example of it. Wasn't necessarily that like, oh, it's too hard, but it did take effort, right? He still has to apply more effort, more time. And then, it's kind of like falls into the line maybe of like that boring category where like, I don't want to.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and I this is one that, and I'm just a very like Yeah, I know. I like when our kids are learning different skills at school and they're just kind of like, and when am I going to use this in like my adult life? And
Yes.
I do not lie and say, "Oh yeah, you're going to be
I
grasping
use it all the time.
all these things." No. You know what? You may not. You probably aren't going to choose a field. This does not interest you. You're probably not going to choose a field, a career in any field that involves this. So
That's
you
great.
probably won't. But it is what is required of you in the state of California to graduate.
Yeah, you got to do it.
And
Right.
so there's a lot of things, and there's going to be more things throughout life that you don't want, and you don't always see the purpose. Sometimes we don't see the purpose in our struggles, but that doesn't mean that there isn't something that we can learn from them and take away and apply to other areas. And so you're just going to have to kind of get over yourself right now,
Yeah.
and you're going to do it. And you're going to,
Yeah, because the argument isn't, am I ever going to use this? If you flip the argument is, am I going to be a finisher?
right, right. And am I going to do what is asked of me? Am I going to, and your attitude can have a huge impact on how productive you are. Even when you aren't enjoying it, your
That's right.
attitude can be a huge factor. If you have a negative, bad attitude, it's going to take you a lot longer to get through that.
Well, listen, this is a story I want to hear from you because one of the things that you and I talk about is how this actually means it, even if it's something our kid wants to do. So we're talking about like my kid didn't want to do that or whatever, but you had a situation where one of your kids wanted to play basketball, but it got hard.
Well, yeah, just so like we kind of talked a little bit about, there's some people kind of have all the genetic lottery as far as certain things are apply, right? So there's people who are born with, oh, they're tall, they're whatever, coordinated, whatever, whatever, whatever. And then those other people aren't. Um, I don't even remember how many years ago it was, and I don't even remember what spurred it, but my son became really, really fascinated with basketball, and he did a couple camps, and then the next thing you know, he wanted to play on a team. And so we're like, okay. So we did that. And his first team was not very good. The coach had never coached before, but we appreciated the fact that he was willing to coach. And so it was
He
kind of,
showed up.
it was actually a kind of a good way to start, I think, because it was kind of like, hey, we're all learning together. We're all, whatever. And so, um, but the next thing I know, the guy that he went to his first camp with, he is finding out how to contact him. He's asking him for like skills and drills for him to practice on his own every day. And he is out there practicing every day. And, again, he's not the tallest person on the team. and, but,
He wasn't blessed with that height.
but that isn't the like determining factor in
That's right.
this is your interest. But we all learned how to encourage him. Like, this is something that he wants to do, and he's putting in the effort. But something he wants to do, something he likes doing, something that he sees progress in. Like, if we look at from when he started, but there's still moments of frustration.
Yeah.
So it's still like, so even it, and because I feel like sometimes people talk about there's lots of not right or wrong. There's lots of ways to parent through like kids wanting to try different sports and activities and then going like, this isn't for me. And um, we can talk about the different strategies, but I don't know that they're necessarily right or wrong. But he gets frustrated, and he will practice, and then sometimes it doesn't always apply to a game how he wants it to, or
Right,
it's like
yeah.
it's a team sport. So even if so there's still a lot of opportunities to apply grit, perseverance, not giving up. And so we still get to support him in that, even though he's still like, here we are 4 or 5 years later, and he's still just as interested. He's still just as wanting to play and wanting to get better.
And still working so hard.
Yes. And so sometimes that's the frustration. It's like he will leave a game or a practice and he'll be like, I know I practice more than anybody else. And still sometimes you're not the best person on the team. And I think that that's a huge thing. And that's kind of one of those other reminders that it's not always about the result. It's about the effort and it's the opportunity to learn from that and grow from that. And you're learning so much through that experience, even if, because let's face it, not even the people who make it to the NBA are all Michael Jordan. None of them are,
Right.
right? So even when you quote like hit peak, even if you were to be quote successful and make it all the way, it still doesn't guarantee that you're quote the best. And so I think that when that's the focus, when the focus is on, winning the gold medal or being the starter of whatever, or being, in some measurable way the best, you feel failure in a different way than when you celebrate this, the small wins, you celebrate the effort, you acknowledge what you're learning and how you're growing and developing as a human because you are disciplined and you're willing to struggle, and you still may not ever quote reach whatever it might be an unattainable goal, but you're still willing.
Well, I mean, think about that. Like, what percentage of people, even if you are a phenomenal player, what percentage of people actually make it to the NBA? You know what I mean?
Right.
But
And I keep reminding him, you don't really want to peak at this age, so it's okay.
You have plenty of time. Plenty of time. But I think that's a really great point, because that's the thing about, like, did they do it or did they do it naturally? Like, we have so many friends who were like excellent athletes and then just weren't even interested.
Right.
And then it feels really unfair to other kids who are like, I was so interested, but I wasn't 6'5" and lanky and
Right.
like, you know what I mean? But I had tenacity. And I decided I was going to work real hard. I mean, think about all the players who had tenacity, who are not 6'5" and lanky. You know what I mean?
Well, and I remember, I think my dad said this when I was growing up. He's like, okay, so let's say you make the team. Let's say you're in the NBA, and let's say you are a bench warmer. He said, you better be the best bench warmer there is.
That's
and
right.
He talks about that a lot too, because he's been on many, many teams, different leagues, different coaching experiences, different teammate experiences. And so we have lots of opportunities to talk about, like, you could still be the best teammate. You could still be cheering on. You can
That's
still,
right.
when a teammate is behaving in a way that you don't, you can still, your values and the things that you want to embody, those don't change because of the people that you're around. This is who you are. This is the type of player you are. And that doesn't change because you don't have a great coach. You don't have a great teammate.
And that is so the opposite of, sometimes we'll be like, how come my kid isn't playing? How come my kid? And those are issues that you can have as adults, but when we're teaching kids, when we're talking to our own kids, those are the lessons they need to hear from us. That everything that you do, if you will persevere, then there is merit in the perseverance. And we know with the evidence that it really does change their brain. It makes them a more persevering person.
Yes.
Okay, here's what I want to talk about, because we do have some tools for people.
Yeah.
So one of the things, and everybody will tell you, we'll have them choose goals and have them work towards their goals, or, you come up with goals for them. Here's the thing though, when you're coming up with goals, it's really important that we're not doing like performance-based goals. You know what I mean? Yeah, really should be. We don't want to make it academic, performance-based. What we want to do is sit with them and literally talk to them about what they want to get better at.
Right.
And they tell us what they want to get better at. Then we have something, and they may come back and say, I don't know, whatever. But in both of our examples, there were things that they were minor things that they may have wanted to get better at. Not, most kids will be like, I want to be in the NBA, or I want to, but help them to come up with what goal, and then just walk through how do you then come up with what we call the SMART goal approach.
Right.
So that they can take the whatever goal they want and actually think through, is it specific? Is it measurable? Is it attainable? You know what I mean? Like, literally break down the whole smart approach so that they can actually get there.
Yes, because think about it. Like I want to get better. How are you going to know you got better? How are you, what does
Yeah.
that even mean? Or I want to learn how to play the piano. Okay, so are you going to practice when you feel like
Yeah, yeah.
it? Because if you only practice when you feel like it, I can guarantee you it's not going to be as often as you need to become
Yeah, right.
skilled at the piano.
Yeah. Well, you could put like a timer on, like practice for this at a
Yes, you're
time
going
or
to
that.
practice for 5 minutes every day. You're going to practice for 10 minutes every day. What,
Yeah.
10, 15 minutes 3 times a week, whatever. But you help them establish how to break down that goal and how to track that goal.
And it could even be, I love this one because people will say, well, we'll just have them play over and over and over again. But actually, it could be that they um, find music that they're interested in.
Yes.
And like find the music for that song.
Yeah, if the
And
standard piano lesson book has you learning row, row, row your boat, it's probably not that,
not going to be that exciting. But you could
pretty sure that was what I learned.
one of our goals this week could be that we're going to go to the library and we're going to check out some books on playing the piano. It doesn't have to be, I mean, it can be very interest based. It could be that we find YouTube videos online of, different ways, to practice or so it could be like that. That's really good. And it could be small counts.
Yeah, absolutely. And just remember to, in your tracking or in your cheerleading as the parent and the support, to always find ways to, root for the effort and them, working through the frustration and versus like, oh, you played that perfectly.
Yeah.
Well, what if they didn't, but they practiced for however long and they still never got it down?
Yeah. No.
You still have to find a way to acknowledge their effort and, hey, you didn't give up.
I want to talk about what happens if you can't get them started because one of the big challenges is getting them, like you ask your kid, what do you want to learn? And they're like, I don't know. Or you'll say like, yeah, or you'll say like, they'll say, oh, I had a kid, he was in my class the other day and he was talking about how, he really wanted to learn how to play soccer because he really wants to like join a soccer team. But he doesn't know anything about soccer and he sees the other kids that are playing and he doesn't like know anybody that plays soccer or whatever. And so I was brainstorming with the mom and I said, look, these are the things that we talk about. Like, and I'm friends, if you're listening, grab a pen. We'll also put this in the show notes, but we call these like our list of things that we want to do if we're having trouble getting started. First thing, and these are all, we call these procrastination busters. So first thing, sit down and write a plan. Just sit down, just write it. It doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to be, whatever. Just write it out. What do you want to do? How long do you want it to take? So you can't just say, I want to learn how to play soccer. You have to say, tell me exactly what you mean. I want to learn the rules of the game, or do I want to learn physically how to move my body to do that? Combination of both. How long are we talking about here in the next 6 months? Or do you want to learn how to play it before tryouts in 2 months? Like, let's figure out what exactly we're talking about. So that's prepare a plan. The second one is to pick a power work time and set place, meaning when exactly are we going to have focused work time? Where are we going to be? So like where are we going to do it on the weekend? Are we going to do it on Saturday? Are we going to do it for 2 hours in the morning? Are we going to like, where and when are we going to do it? And then the next one is to prepare what we call a production pal, meaning like, what is everything that we're going to need to do this soccer thing? Are we going to have to look up videos? Are we going to have to put shorts and sneakers and, a t-shirt, sweatshirt in the bag so that it's ready when time to like just come up with a quick production pile, water bottle, blah, blah, blah. Then here's a good one. I like this one. Ready? Pick rewards.
Mm.
And no, I don't mean a Nintendo. I mean, like, what reward would you give yourself if you're a kid for doing that? Parents, same thing for us if we're trying to do so. What rewards would we have? for ourselves, right? Then positive self-talk. Have you ever put like sticky notes on your mirror as positive self-talk?
I think it's been a while, but I think I have.
It's so good to have things in front of you. You could put it like I actually carry with me. Um, I carry a notebook with me everywhere for work. And I sometimes get like those blank cover notebooks and then I put some of the self-talk stuff on the notebook.
Yeah.
Just so it's
When
in
I
front of my face.
Yeah, I mean, a good one for this lesson is just you could even have a sticky note that just says yet
Oh, that's
to
good.
remind you whenever a negative thing or like a quitter phrase, comes up. And I think, obviously you can make them personalized and even for your kids. And you might even write some down that you think your kid will need because again, remember, you might be that voice for them
Yeah.
to get them started. I think another thing to really we were you kind of touched on this, like when we say, like, okay, kids, like what are your goals? What do you want to learn? How do you want to get better? And if they are like very nothing, I don't want to do this. We've talked about this before, and I'm sure we're going to talk about it again. It will probably be woven into many other episodes, but when we talk about like family values, this can be one of those that if you haven't already incorporated these things into your home and into your family, but having a family phrase where you encompass the concept of perseverance or grit or whatever word resonates with you and your family. So in our family, we try again, or we don't have to be perfect, just
I
willing.
love that.
We can do hard things. You pick a phrase that kind of embodies a general thing and incorporate that into your family values. And then for your kids, you might have those more personalized ones based on their personal skills. Because again, remember, they're gonna have to do things just like we as adults have to do things that we don't always want to do, feel like doing,
Yeah.
our interest. Like there's like you could talk to just about anybody in any profession, and you could say, what do you love about your job? And I'm sure they'd have multiple things. But then there's always going to be things that they don't love about their job. And if you just or their company or whatever, there's always going to be something that isn't perfect.
Yeah.
And even if you're doing your dream job, there's still going to be scenarios and situations that aren't wonderful and you still kind of have to deal with them. You still have to put up with that to do the thing that you love or, just to get through life.
Yes, 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 yes.
And so, yeah, reminding ourselves that, hey, this is part of the human experience. Sometimes you have to do stuff that you don't want to do.
That's really good. I mean, and it just goes back to even like, we're talking about this as though it's something that kids want to do or want to learn. A lot of times it's just like, I got to get through math or I got to get through,
Yep.
and sit down 10 minutes, pick up a pencil.
Get through this and you can get to the good stuff.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. That's awesome. Well, I think I have nothing else on persevering because, I think we've persevered all the way to the end of our episode.
We did it. We can do hard things. No,
We can do hard things.
fun and easy. It's fun and easy.
It is fun and easy. I want to end with this. We wrote this, friends, for you guys. Perseverance isn't loud and it isn't perfect. It looks like trying again after something feels hard. And every time we practice the skill, the brain learns I can do hard things. And eventually that belief becomes confidence, resilience, and independence.
I love that.
That is awesome. Thank you for hanging out with me, Anna.
Thank you.
And thanks, everybody. Please share this with everybody. We want all kinds of people listening. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all
your favorite podcast platform.
That's exactly right. Thanks, everyone. See you next time.